Playing Possum Podcast.
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 Playing Possum Podcast. Most recent British Bake Off, there's a guy in there. I won't say how far he gets because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But he always talks about the flavors. It's like the flavors of everything, and it's like he has marbles in his mouth, and he also has this like really interesting accent. He's like the flavors.
I like that one guy that kind of looks like a vampire, or he like might have played a vampire in a previous show.
No, the comedian that's the host. Oh, I'm obsessed with him, and like he designs his own clothes, and yeah, I just want to be him for sure.
Yeah. Every time, like every single sweater he wears, I'm like,
I know.
I want that sweater, and also like I don't know if there's like any way I could pull that sweater off. That's how I feel.
No,
I don't know.
I feel like I want to see you. Actually, I have a sweater that I want to see you skateboarding in one of your videos.
Sweet.
And it's
Okay.
we're going to have to make that happen.
Okay, that sounds very fun.
Yeah.
That would be like a fun concept for a skate video of like doing like a fashion theme. Like each one you're wearing like a really unique piece of something.
Oh my God, can we do a skateboard fashion show?
You have
I
to
know
like
how to
skate.
longboard. It would have to be like a really slow, if I'm in it, it'd have to be like really slow, fat longboard runway. But we could have like 2 runways.
Yeah. Well, I feel like skateboarding is kind of a fashion show in it. Like it just kind of, that is part of it in a way, I think. Like all the skateboarders that I like, I could tell you like what they wear, you know.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, it's
attention every time to like the clothing, and there's some guys that like you can tell like every time they're like, I'm gonna wear something super off the wall, and yeah, that just makes it more fun. Gives it a little bit of flavor.
flava.
Yeah, flava. That's the word. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's part of the aesthetic, I feel like I am not really a skateboarder, but I like am skateboard adjacent and have been since 8th grade when I was like really wanted to be this dude that was a skateboarder, and I thought I had a crush on him, but it turns out I just wanted to be him, and I was like selling something from his skateboard, and I was like, oh yeah, I need that for my skateboard, and I bought it from him, and it just like I didn't have a skateboard, and I was like, yeah, I need that. Yeah, so the aesthetic I like to cultivate is like Western wear and skater wear combined. So like I really like Vans, but then I want to wear it with like a bolo tie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I definitely had the. Go ahead.
I'm not. I was just affirming those choices.
I've like also had that experience of like, wanting to like, well, being unsure if I like have a crush on somebody or if I just want to be them. And like I think one of them was Maddie Matheson, like that like, YouTube cook who was on The Bear. And then it was like one of those situations like, oh, I think I just want his closet. Like I just want his wardrobe.
yeah, that's real. You're like, do I like you or do I want to be you? Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
the
feel
same
like
with
that was
like Andre 3000's glasses.
Yeah.
It's a strong
I
glasses
think
game.
that question of like, do I like you? Do I have a crush on you, or do I just want to be you? It's interesting how similar those two feelings are. They're kind of pretty hard to distinguish sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at something shiny kind of thing.
Yeah. Or like there's a few people that like the feeling that I want to be them is so strong sometimes. I don't really know, like that's just a strange, it feels so much like having a crush on somebody, I think in some cases, but like it definitely isn't, it's like aromantic, but otherwise it's like just like, oh my God, I can't stop looking at this picture of this person or something like that. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's like the same type of longing, I think, of like, right? Like, I don't know. For me, I think about like, especially like before, like early in my queerness and like trying to figure out my gender expression and stuff, like there were all these people, same thing. Like I would look at these pictures of these people and like that, this longing of like, which I think maybe is sort of what love is too, is like you can kind of see that like within this person, there's a version of yourself that you want to be. It's I don't know. I don't have good words, but it's an interesting that like it's a fine line.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
dated a guy for a while that I think I just wanted to be. And I think like kind of vice versa. Like we really liked the idea of each other, but it was like not a good fit at all. But we were like, we had so much fun and we like skied together and biked together and ran together. And we were like, we're so great together. But we were just like, I think just really liked like the parts of each other that like we kind of saw in ourselves or something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm gay. Bye.
I definitely get like kind of those fleeting admirations or like crushes on artists when I'm really digging their work. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's all I consume, in various genres and mediums, until I've had too much of it. And then I can't stand to like think about it or look at it anymore. And then it just like completely goes away. But I think I don't know, maybe that's just me because I feel like that happens in so many aspects of my life.
That sounds familiar to me. Just like obsessing over a thing until I'm like, I start feeling shame about how much time I've spent with that thing. And
Yeah.
it turns into like a revulsion. Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I feel that way about like I don't know, I guess off the top of my head I could think of like the original L Word, and I remember being like in high school like watching that, like being like it's my 5th time through it. And now like the thought of even like watching an episode I'm like, oh, cringy. Yeah.
I get like that with songs, like, and then Spotify will like throw it in my face and be like, your top song this year was this song that you hate now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Dozen times.
they're like, you played this song 1,000 times and I watched you cry 25 of them. Yeah.
I do really
Yeah.
appreciate that recap though, the Spotify like wrap up or whatever, where I can see what I was looking at, because I think it's one of those check-ins that it reflects one of those check-ins I often need to have with myself, where it's like, how much time am I dedicating to a certain thing, and like, does it really matter? Because I think just like that obsessive kind of energy, I think of being like an admirer of like creative things, and if it's really like feeding you, or if you're just like not, if you're gonna like not make anything but you're just gonna keep consuming.
Yeah. I want to come back to this playlist situation because I have a question for Forrest, but I think we should introduce Forrest.
Oh yeah, we
Okay,
should probably
give me
introduce
just a
Forrest.
second because my son is watching. I don't know if you know the cartoon Uncle Grandpa, but
No.
it's a very fucking weird show. But it's funny, but I can hear it because my door's open, so I'm going to close that real quick before.
Do it.
Okay.
Close out Uncle Grandpa. Bye,
Yeah.
Uncle Grandpa.
I feel like Uncle Grandpa could be like an endearing nickname for you, Kat.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm into it. I don't know if any of y'all have heard Marcel or watched Marcel the Shell, but there's a line in there that's like, you know what I want, but I'm not going to beg for a nickname.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
And I like always so desperately want a nickname. Like even like I really like being called Kat, but like I always introduce myself as Catherine because I'm like, I can't beg for this nickname,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So
I always feel
I'm
nervous.
down for Uncle Grandpa or UG for short. I might have to watch the cartoon, but I feel like I have Uncle Grandpa vibes.
It's fun if you can like stick it out. It's just a very weird show.
Like a Rick and Morty kind of level weird, or what?
I haven't watched a lot of Rick and Morty, but it's like it's really playing with like, this is an animated show. We're drawing all this, and the characters know that they can do anything, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's like he's got a fanny pack that talks, like the zipper is like the mouth, and it will like, for instance, create a plot hole for Uncle Grandpa to run through and be in a different place, or yeah, I don't know. It's just like constant crazy, but it is fun, very fun.
Cool.
Sounds like my vibe.
And the whole thing, the like, I think the one of the taglines is like, "Don't be afraid to be super weird."
Yeah, I like
So
that.
it's real. I really love that about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like adulthood is just trying to get back to like how weird you were as a kid? And it's just like they try to like get the weird out of us, and then like all we're trying to do is just get back to like that weird little kid, like I'm sure like watching your son watch Uncle Grandpa, and like he's so probably stoked about it, and you're like, this is kind of weird, but it's also like it's like good, I don't know.
Yeah, you're like wringing out the shame sponge.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
My God, I can see a comic about that.
Wringing out a shame sponge for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
My aunt said something to me in a letter that she wrote recently that I've been hanging on to, because not to have the hordes of our listeners like swarming where I live, but I live on this street called Rogue Lane. And although if I, we did have one, if I did like go outside one day and there were a bunch of fans standing out there, like I don't think I would be mad. But anyway, to get back to my point, he was like, I love the name of your street, always be a rogue. And I was like, that is so sick. Like, yes, that is the energy, like always be a rogue. And yeah, I don't know. So what we were just talking about, it just reminded me of that.
I feel like your nickname could be Rogue Grandpa.
Rogue Grandpa. Yeah, I like that. I think Rogue Grandpa also wears their waistband of their pants like 6 inches higher.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so we've kind of talked about comics a little bit, and we've kind of talked about skateboards a little bit.
Yep.
And so I think we should introduce our guest first, who is a friend of Kacey and I, is a close friend, and also has been a colleague of both Kacey and I. So I'll say my bit about you, and Kacey can say their bit about you, and then and then you can introduce yourself, I guess. But yeah, Forrest and I worked kind of linearly together when I was sort of early in Highland, and Forrest was running a makerspace at LBCC, and so we had a lot of conversations around that and safety and making things and all of that, and then have taught a skateboard class together, making a skateboard to the youths. And then have also connected around making comics. And so it's just always been really fun to have conversations around creativity and making with Forrest. And so we were really excited when he agreed to be on the podcast. So I'll pass it to you, Kacey.
Yes, actually, I think it should be noted and celebrated that Forrest is the reason why this podcast even exists in the first place, because if Forrest didn't introduce me to the notion of Highland and then interview Ashley, who's Kat's one of Kat's co-owners of the Highland, and then agree to do a video with Ashley at Highland that Kat showed up on the second day, then we met, we became friends, and then I mean I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, being Forrest.
I just remember like that. Yeah, that's like one of the first times I was at Highland. So I've really known y'all from the beginning. Yeah.
I don't know if it was just me, but I remember making like really like awkward and knowing eye contact with you and being like, I like it. I think I get it, right? Like,
are you queer?
Me too. But yeah, so Forrest and I also worked together, and also I think he was like low key therapist sometimes, like played that role for me a lot. So yeah, and like collaborated on like a lot of different projects, and was a supporter of like early filmmaking and like video creation stuff at work. And yeah.
How would you introduce yourself, Forrest?
Well, I would say I had the privilege to work with you guys, and I was constantly just like trying to, soak in as much of your coolness as I could. So that's
We're talking about you. We're talking about you.
I wouldn't leave you alone. I'm like, I'm gonna figure out how I can talk to Kacey about comics today, every day at work, and then how do I make an excuse to get over to Highland and work with Catherine, especially bringing it back to Uncle Grandpa. That we built the thing that we built when we were at Highland for that video. We had these. We needed. I don't even know how to I don't know if it even makes sense to try to explain why we were building this thing, but we had 3D printers that needed something to be on. My idea had been, I'm going to make a design for a 3D printer shelf. I'm going to print that. I'm going to 3D print the design. Then we're going to make it out of wood at Highland, and I'll show every type of makering you can maker. And I had all these plans. We were going to do like all sorts of really fancy woodwork. And what we ended up doing was pin nailing a bunch of like 1-inch oak boards to each other
Yeah,
and
it just
glue.
evolved.
Oh, and then the other piece was Kacey came over. I had this, we bought a house and there was this giant pew, like church pew on our front porch that the cats used as a peeing post, I think. The neighborhood cats did. And so it was gross, but I knew there was a lot of oak in it. So we like basically like deconstructed it and then did all this stuff to make a tabletop, which was pretty cool. But it was like that was one of those examples of like doing things DIY is like doesn't save you any time, doesn't save you any money. You do end up with something that you're like, oh, I have a lot of memories on that thing.
Mhm. Yeah,
Which
I
is pretty cool.
remember when we were setting up for that project. Did I cut you off? I think I have a little leg.
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay. I remember setting up for that project and we were talking about like, yeah, we should be able to like get this done in like 2 or 3 days, like no problem. And had like no idea that we by the end of the third day, which was the day that like Kat came into the shop, that we were all just like I was filming and like fine. And then I was just watching the three of you just be like super frantic and annoyed and like we need to get this thing done.
All I could think was like these poor people like must just think I'm the like I don't know, the worst, like the dumbest, most unprepared. I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I did though. So
I think that's
that
the
kind
fun of doing makerspace stuff though, is like it's kind of fun to just go in confident and then realize that you're in pretty far, like almost too deep,
yeah,
and have to work your way back out of it.
definitely too deep. And then you just it's like if you had the experience of like diving to the like diving off a diving board in the deep end of a pool and you're like, I'm gonna touch the bottom this time. And you touch the bottom and you're feeling cool and then you swim it up and then like I don't know, halfway up to the top of the like back to the surface, you're like, oh shit, like I did not have enough air for this. How am I gonna survive? And then you do you do make it to the top, gasping and like everybody's laughing at you, but you made it to the top. And you touched the bottom.
Hmm.
Pretty. He did all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my memory of that is like that was so early on. And I was like, trying to figure out if like this was going to be a good fit for me and kind of getting to know Ashley. And I was like so grateful that she like included me in the video and stuff. And I was trying to be so professional and like, I don't know, it's just hilarious. Like, it's so funny to think about like now and like how well we know each other and like the desire of that, like how we want to be seen, and like yeah, and then the end of it was just so hilarious. And I feel like I've learned a lot from Ashley of like Ashley is really good about just kind of like saying yes to things and doing them and not overthinking it. And it's been, I think that's why Highland is what it is. And because if you overthink it, it's just never going to happen. And I am like an overthinker. I work really slowly. And so it was kind of my first, like, talk about deep end. Like, it was like, oh my God, like, I'm going to be on video pin nailing something together. And, so yeah, but it was good, and it was like really nice to connect with you both and then sort of be like, oh, like there's these other people in the community. And yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting. Like, I think it was interesting going into Highland because it felt so put together and established. And at that time, Forrest was just starting to like put the mill together and like the makerspace that I don't think we actually named it, but the makerspace that Forrest worked at was called the mill. And like seeing that process of that starting to go together and then like working in an established makerspace. And I think that was just, it was so exciting for me because it's like, this is like what this could be, like the place that we had spent, 5 days a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really exciting for me too, to like find another makerspace in the area. I'd seen some places, but they were always, I think the cool thing about Highland was that it, well, as a makerspace, it wasn't just like 3D printers. And then it also had a definite like, this isn't the like crafts shop, the wood shop that like the select few get to come and do their like, only do like really high-end work and everybody is super established, and it just like felt like, oh, this is like they really want anybody to come and make like anything, even if it like is not cool particularly, it's all pin nailed and glued together, like that's fine. That felt really cool. Yeah, and just finding there's a lot of people who want to start maker spaces. I've found like lots of people are like, oh, I want to do that. I like to make things, but not a lot of people do follow through on that, or like, I mean, it's hard to follow through on it. It's hard to like make it work. There's not very many, like the models for making it work are not super good. And so to see like Highland and feel like, oh, this is a way that it could work, I think was cool. I mean, I'm sure it's a constant struggle because that's what it seems like it is for makerspaces. But it was cool to see somebody who'd actually followed through on their idea of like, I want to create a community making space.
Yeah, and that credit goes all to Nat and Ashley because
Yeah.
I didn't join them till it was already established for 2 years, 3 years maybe. So yeah, Ashley and Nat just did it. And yeah, it's an amazing space that they have created and that I've been able to step into. So yeah, I think when you said like, when you were kind of describing Highland and like sort of that anybody can be there, I was thinking about that video, and I feel like that was like my baptism into Highland of like decolonializing my woodworking, because I come from such a traditional high level woodworking education and a lot of steeped in a lot of patriarchy, and so it's taken me a long time to be comfortable with that. And I mean, like, it aligns with my values, it's what I want, but then to be able to, I think that's one of the biggest struggles, right? Like what we were saying is like wringing out that shame sponge or getting back to your weird or whatever, of like being able to be like, this is my value. I want everyone to be able to make whatever they want, but then I have all this training that like pushed a certain type of woodworking on me, and to align both of those has been hard for me. Like, it's hard for my own work, but it's also even hard as an educator to be like, like, and Kacey and I have talked about this a lot because Kacey comes in the shop a fair amount now, and like, Kacey's like, I just want to get this done. I know it's not going to be perfect. And that's been really helpful for me as an educator to be like, okay, like I don't have to put my level of how I work at, in my personal work on anyone else. And I have to meet them where they are. And, it's a good practice. I think it's a good practice as an educator, but it's a good practice for me because then I can take that back to my personal work and be like, hey, you don't need to sand the bottom of this tray to 300 grit. You can, nobody's going to see it. So, yeah.
That's really I run into that a lot, actually, skateboarding, because that's another thing that I do quite a bit. We've talked a bit about it, but I do skate quite a bit in the skateboarding for tricks, sort of, for street skating at the skate park and things. But I find that I like I'm running into that all the time, like at the skate park. Kids are on scooters or bikes or doing whatever, or adults, and so I did this thing for a long time. So when I'm skating, if you push with your back foot on the skateboard and your front foot off you're pushing with your front foot, that's called pushing Mongo, which my guess is the like etymology of the Mongo is probably pretty ugly, but like, so it's pushing Mongo. And like,
we lost Forrest for a second.
That's interesting. He's still recording.
Yeah. I mean, it's just his video, but
and he's gone.
Oh, bye.
I was thinking when you were talking about teaching and like meeting people where they're at Highland, I thought that was awesome because I'd just been thinking about that since we had that interaction the other day, and
yeah.
And just like I think it was such, I got so much out of like that discussion, like more than just like, oh, this is like a good practice of communication and like talking through something, but also just like, I think grounding myself in like a realization of like what I'm actually trying to accomplish while I'm there. And so,
cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting you brought it up just because like it's been something that's been like kind of like working in the back of my head for the last few days.
Yeah, what would you say? Like, it was really helpful for me too. Forrest, we're just talking when you left, we were just kind of picking back up on that idea of like perfectionism in the shop and perfectionism of doing stuff. And you were talking about that in relationship to skateboarding. So
Yeah.
Kacey was just saying Kacey and I kind of had a conversation around it recently. And for me, I always, anytime I talk about it, I always get a lot out of both of like how to show up as an educator and help people let go of that, right? We have so much patriarchy and colonialism bullshit, and I think woodworking in particular has a lot of that, and probably skateboarding probably has some patriarchy in there. And so yeah, just I don't know what I was talking about, but Kacey was sharing that that conversation you were taking some away, so I was curious what you were taking, I guess.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it was that I had a realization that I wasn't like abdicating for what like I actually needed or like wanted out of the situation, and was just like I'm just going to roll with it, and then like getting frustrated because I was like, I'm not trying to do all of this or some, and instead of just being like, I don't know if this is like what I actually was like hoping to get out of this conversation or something. And so like not I need to like practice like abdicating for myself and like speaking up, I think, about like what or be like clearer in my communication of like what I'm actually trying to like do or accomplish. And I think also it was reaffirming to that blog post that I've not yet posted about imperfect things and how I was just kind of like interested in like learning through trial and error and like being open to failing. And yeah, and also just like taking a breath sometimes, like also just like regulating myself and just being like it's not really a big deal, because it's just coming to like have fun and like hang out with your friends. So
Yeah. Well, so you were talking for us about maybe like a certain type of skateboarding is frowned upon, and
Yeah.
where were you going with that? I'm curious.
Yeah, sorry. For my iPad was dying and it's plugged in though, so I thought like, well, this will be an adventure, and it shut down. But yeah, I was getting kind of long winded. But so I pushed the wrong way, and it's something that like people get made fun of and stuff in normal skateboarding fluent communities, but I didn't grow up in one. I was like, there just weren't older skaters around in the town that I grew up in, so the shame didn't like crush that out of me. So I pushed like that for 17 years, I want to say, and then I did finally like decide I was going to learn to push regular. But there's a lot of like YouTube videos about it, like, is it really bad, or why it's so bad to push that other way? And most of the time it just comes down to people feel like it looks weird. But um there are some like physics about like the way you have to move your body to like get back onto the board. I guess what I was trying to get at is like, it's been interesting to think about when I was pushing Mongo. I always felt like skateboarding is supposed to be about no rules, and everybody keeps trying to push this rule on me, and like, this is how I feel comfortable, and I don't even understand how to skate a different way, so just leave me alone. And I don't get why people are like, sometimes it felt like people do not want to skate with me because I push this way, and that felt really weird. And then eventually, like, really the shame got to me, and I was like, I'm going to learn to skate the other way. It was super hard to do because I had so much muscle memory built up around pushing that way, which ended up being really great for my skating because I really had to think about my body to make that switch, and to like lose the muscle memory of pushing that way. It just feels like crazy to try to switch something like that. So it was really good for my skating, but like, I'm not sure, like, I don't feel great about, what's the word, just giving in to what everybody thought about it. But now I'll see people at the skate park and they're pushing Mongo, and I have this like I do this thing in my mind of like, am I going to enforce the like patriarchy and or I guess it's sort of patriarchy. Like, just, am I going to tell them to switch? Am I going to, I think in the switch, it did help me learn like, oh, there is actually some reason, like there are reasons why pushing this way is like, I'm not sure if I want to say better, but like, it does make a difference, but it's a pretty minuscule difference. I don't know. It is. And it's also like not, I think people like approach it with so much confidence. It's so much better to push the other way. Anyway, I try to like, I think there is a part of me that does want to like, oh, I'm going to save you the shame of like when you realize that you've been pushing the wrong way. That's what I like kind of feel like sometimes is I'm trying to like rescue that person from like getting shamed. But then I have to be like, no, it's fine. They're having a good time. And it looks really cool actually when somebody is doing it the wrong way and they still do cool stuff. I feel like that's really exciting to me when I see that, and especially when I like have the, I don't know, sense to like leave them alone and like just enjoy skating with them. Yeah, but that was kind of a long-winded way of like when there is that kind of, you know, heritage of patriarchy and like cool guyism, finding out like trying to step away from that, and then maybe slowly you kind of find out, oh, I guess there are like, I can understand like how some people got there, why they wanted to do, why you would want to push regular rather than Mongo. I think I get that now, but I don't think it's something that's worth like shaming people about, I guess is what it's like. Same with like pin nailing together our little thingy and gluing it. Like there are reasons why you don't want to do that, or you might like why you might want to do it a different way, good reasons for that, but like I don't know that those override the like value of just somebody having made something that they were trying to make, you know, or like they're like, yeah, I'm not sure if I articulated that super well, but like I run into that a lot. Or like kids on a scooter at the skate park. Like I do want to encourage them to skateboard, but I try really hard to like, I'm not going to just shame them because they're on scooters. I do think that skateboarding is like, I don't know, it feels like it's the sort of thing that you can continue on. I mean, maybe I'm sure that people thought the same way about skateboarding though, you know, 15 years ago. Like they should probably stop skateboarding and maybe ride a mountain bike because you can ride a mountain bike when you're 40, but you can't skateboard.
Well, aren't you 40 and aren't you skateboarding?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, you know, 15 years ago, I'm not sure anybody would be like, oh yeah, he'll still be doing that when he's 40.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about what you do. And so we'll link to Forrest's Instagram, but Forrest posts these videos of him doing these skateboarding tricks. How old are you? 42?
40.
40. Okay. You just turned 40. I sadly missed your birthday. So Forrest just turned 40 and is doing these incredibly rad skateboarding tricks. And like, as somebody who was like wished that they were like a skateboarding boy in the 80s, it's like very cool to see like someone doing skateboarding that's outside of what is typically, you know, like you're supposed to be young and you're supposed to be, you know, like, you know, whatever, pushing a certain way, which I didn't know. And actually, the way you described it was really interesting. So I was listening to you say this of like seeing these other kids and wanting to protect them from shame and keeping yourself from doing it, because all you're going to do if you go and tell them to do it differently is bring shame upon them, right? And so you're not perpetuating what you experienced. And that desire, what people don't understand is that desire is actually yourself wanting to protect yourself,
Yeah.
right? It's like you are wanting to protect your younger self. And so you see a kid and you're like, let me just perpetuate the harm that was perpetuated on me. But you didn't do that, right? And you're not doing that. And that's all people have to do is take that moment and be like, I have this urge to do this thing, and tell someone not to do X, Y, or Z because they're going to look weird doing it. And understand that all of that is you trying to protect yourself from shame that you felt when someone told you you were weird, versus like letting them be their weird self, and then they don't have to undo all that bullshit that you had to undo, you know. And it's like they can push Mongo for their whole life or not. And actually what I heard you say is you are actually a much better skater. You're still skating at 40. Some of these motherfuckers who skated the other way are not.
Yeah.
And like you have such an awareness of your body. Like I was listening to you talk about it, and I do this movement practice called Feldenkrais, which I'm not even going to explain to anyone. Google it if you're interested. But it's a lot about neuroplasticity and learning how you move in the world and through novel movements. And the whole thing is you should be able to do anything with your body if you understand what you're doing. And so you should be, as a skater, you should be able to push both ways. because both of those should be a possibility for you, right? Because if you can push one way, you should be able to push the other way, and you should know why and how. And like, that's what you taught yourself when you taught yourself the new way. All of these new possibilities came to you that weren't accessible when you were just doing it one way, but now you have like so much more available to you because you understand how your body moves in space in all these different planes. And so I don't know, it was just interesting to hear you describe it. And I think I'm proud of you for not going up to those kids and just letting them be themselves. And, you know, maybe this rule, if more people like you can do this, this rule will disappear. And like the other thing we've talked about on this podcast is like sometimes like there's like once you know the rules, you can break the rules, but then before you know the rules, you can break the rules. And there's like this moment on either side. And I think it seems like you've been on both ends of that. And so it's now you're in this really creative space with your skating. So that's cool, I think.
Yeah, and I think for me right now, I think I'm in that like I know the rules and I want to break them with more confidence sort of a position now. Like I want to feel more free to like, you know what, I think it would be like really rad to push Bongo for this trick or nobody like would expect it and that will be fun. I do know some people who are that way and I like envy them. Or yeah, there's all kinds of, especially, and I think this is the same with any, it seems like it's the same in any kind of like subculture, you know, if it's woodworking or skateboarding or 3D printing probably or whatever. Just like there are just so many little rules that you're not supposed to, things that you're not supposed to do that like, I don't know. They're just, it's fun to break them. I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that. I had a space I was going to, but I lost it. But I just think it's fun to do things. Yeah, I go back and forth with this because sometimes I'll take a video of myself doing a trick and I know that it's like a weird one and I feel really excited about that. And then I'll like post it and then, you know, like instantly I'm like questioning it and feeling, you know, shame and trying my best not to like obsess about the likes or whatever, but I absolutely do. And that's been interesting for me lately. Actually, I haven't been posting as many videos because I was feeling like I was really obsessing over my Instagram feed and I wanted to be making more stuff. And so I took the app off my phone um but I still have been making videos and I haven't been posting them as much, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I think there's a piece of that is like, what if people don't like it? And what if people think I'm weird because of these things that I'm videotaping? And also part of it is like, I feel a little bit more free to like make whatever I want when I'm not posting it and I'm not having to fret about like, I can just make the video for whatever reason I think I want to. And then it usually ends up being worth something else to me afterward. Like sometimes it's like, I think this is going to look cool. It doesn't actually look cool, but I can see that like this is like my body moved this way and I didn't realize that. It's just a nice tool that way. But I think there is also like this tension of being like I don't know if it, well, I guess in some ways it's just being an artist. Like I want to share my work, but I also know that the work is like my work and it looks like I did it. And for me, and I have some like feelings about, you know, the quality and like how it compares to everything else. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about like doing these things for yourself and how that has a lot of value, but also like sharing has a lot of value, but also can come with a lot of shame and weirdness as well. I don't know.
Yeah. I would really like to kind of just normalize like creating things and making art for just like the love of the game. I don't know. I feel like at some point it becomes serious. And I know that like on the show a lot we talk about how social media is kind of like this kind of thread of how people are gauging like their worth as a creator or it's like this one of the serious parts of being an artist is like getting out there and sharing it. Though it's I also feel like there's like definitely a shift in when we're making like as kids because we, you know, we're drawing because we like to draw or we're skateboarding because we like to skateboard or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when we start getting older and like we start getting filled with shame, like there's no reason to do it unless we have some like authority over it by being really great at like
That's good.
skateboarding the right way and filming it and producing it in a way that's going to, and marketing it and posting it in ways that are like going to get the most attention and the most likes and build like the most credibility on being like an authority of this version of creativity.
That's a really cool way to frame it, like striving for the authority. Because like with skateboarding, for instance, I know I'm never going to make a career out of my skateboarding, but to like think of like maybe there is part of that happening. It's like, oh, maybe I imagine like someday I'll be an authority on this, and that's super interesting to see how those ideas of like patriarchy and things come out that way. That's really interesting.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't want to interrupt you, Casey, but I think like I remember when we did that class for us, like I thought of you as the authority on skateboarding. Like I'm like, I know how to do the woodworking part, but I don't know anything about skateboards. And I remember when you had the kids like trying them, and like it was just so cool to watch you interact with them. And but yeah, like it's so easy to give our power away. And I just wrote kind of like a blog piece about this on our Playing Possums, of like how much I see external validation of like whether or not I am a woodworker, and it's like I actually have like become less even attached to that a term and recently. And I think because I've applied for so many grants and so many things to be acknowledged in this world of a furniture maker, but like I don't even make that much furniture. And like I'm never going to fit in that group. I'm never going to be validated. And it's like but then like within my local community, it's like people I think do think of me as an authority, but I don't think of myself as an authority in relation to this other thing. And it's so easy to like take yourself out, because if you think of things hierarchically, right, then you're like, well, I'm only here and there's all these other people who are up here, versus thinking about it in relationship to what you want, right? And like what I hear you saying of what you want in your skating is to like be creative and do fun stuff and weird stuff and film yourself and maybe share it and maybe not and maybe use it for this. And like you're never going to be a professional skateboarder, but maybe you were and now you're not. I actually don't know, but you're not planning on it. It's not even what you want. But then it's like we do that for everything, right? Like I love playing guitar, and it's like I don't ever want to be a professional musician. So why would I ever compare myself to a professional musician, right? Like that's not what I want. And so, but it's so easy to do that because we're like, but this is where I should be. And it's like, I think that like, that's why people don't skateboard. That's why people don't play music. That's why people don't try woodworking, because they're like, well, I'm never going to be a professional woodworker or skateboarder or musician. And it's like, but you don't even want that. Like that's not even your goal. And so like it's like we're comparing ourselves to something that we don't want. And like I just want to be good enough to play guitar with my wife and sing some silly songs, and good enough maybe to even make up some even sillier songs. And like that's my goal. Like I don't ever want anything more than that. And so it's like, okay, well, how do I stay true to that goal? And cut out that noise of like, you're not good enough, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so easy to accept defeat in like our chosen hobbies of like anything really that's like creative or like using your brain in a way that's like, I'm gonna try something out of the box. It's so hard, and so it takes so much to, I think, like get the thing to show somebody anyway. And then when it's like not great, or no, I take that back, because it could be great, but like someone like poo-poos it for whatever reason because of their own shit, then you're or at least I could speak for myself, is so apt to just like roll over and be like, okay, well, I'm not good at this. I'm not going to do that. Because when you're talking about guitar, it made me think about like being in high school again and really wanting to, like, I played guitar and I took lessons and started like trying to play with bands, and then like, get rejected a few times. And then I'm like, you know what, this clearly is not for me. And then being like, well, but I really enjoyed doing it. You know, I look back at it and I was like, I really enjoyed doing it. And I took it seriously, and I'd only been doing it for a few years. Like, how was I going to like abandon myself in like this interest like so quickly because like some like 17-year-old was like, I don't like how you play. Like, because in the end, it's like, who really cared? And I don't know. Like, it makes me think about like if I hadn't taken so many rejections by random people and like really internalized it, like what are the things that like I could have like accomplished that I probably wouldn't have if I hadn't done that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a like kind of what Catherine was saying too, with like what it's cool to imagine, or the times that people haven't done that, like have been willing to like, all right, let's do things the wrong way together with you, or like do things that are not good yet, or maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but like when people are willing to do that with you, I think that's like how you actually um like feel like you have permission to suck at things and have fun at them, or just like, I don't know, that's how you get good, or like enjoy your
Mhm.
life. It's when people like, I skateboard. I think I grew up with a group of friends. We were all the same age, and we were the only ones skating at the skate park, so it didn't really matter that we were all doing it wrong, because we were all homies, and like we were just dicking around anyway. And so like we were doing it wrong. Like I started skateboarding out as a like pretend, like I think we were making fun of skateboarders. I started skateboarding as a like joke with my friends. None of them skated, and we would then it started to become like we'd call each other skater bro, as a like, this is obviously what we are not kind of way.
Mhm.
It started like, oh, let's see if we'll like, somebody has a skateboard, let's take the joke the next level. Um and then like it started to be like, oh, let's pretend we could ollie and like make fun of ourselves for like how bad our like our attempt to ollie looks. And then it turned into like, oh man, that was cool, like I actually got close on that one. And that's what it took, like, because I had tried to learn to skateboard before, like seriously, not seriously, but like tried to have ollie, and I like couldn't stand on the board, and I just felt so embarrassed. But it was because I was trying to do the good thing and not trying to do it bad. I guess like trying to do it bad is what like, and having people around that were like, yes, do it bad, like that's what we want. That's what empowered me to feel like I like doing this. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Is like, you're just trying to get to the place where you like doing it enough that it doesn't matter what other people think about it. And then you
Yeah.
can keep doing it, and then you probably will get good at it. But even if you don't, it's like, who cares?
Yeah, this is making me think that I'm recognizing that we're using like the good and bad kind of
Yeah.
scale a lot in this conversation. And I think like also, I mean, maybe instead of thinking of things as like good and bad, is like maybe a skill that you have that someone doesn't enjoy, that's in the same maybe vein, it's just not for them. Like it's not a good fit. Like the styles just don't mesh. And so it doesn't actually mean anything other than like what they're interested in is like not compatible like with your output. And that, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's just like objective.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about that too, Casey, of like the good and bad. And I think Casey and I had a podcast like early on, and this was like blowing my mind when we talked about this. And I've sort of been thinking about it since in my own work of, I think like what you were saying, Forrest, around your skating. And I think like what we've talked about is like, there are skills that you need to be able to say what you want to say. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's skills that you need in skateboarding to do the tricks you want to do. And it's not that they're good or bad, but it's like, this is what I want to do in my skating. And so you are learning that to say what you want to say.
Yeah.
If you are truly moving in towards your creativity and towards what's inside you, right? And like I feel that way with woodworking, is like there's skills I want to get to be able to make the things I want to do, and I'm interested in doing imagery, and so I want to learn more about steam bending and making frames that are a certain way. And it's not that I'm like, this is a good way to do this, or this is what I'm doing now is bad. It's just like I want to move towards what I want to say. And I think when you think about it and in the terms of like skills of like, I'm just going to acquire these skills because these are good skills, then you do end up having a lot of shame around not having the skills, or that you have shame around, you know, having a hard time learning them. Like I see that a lot in teaching, of like people have a hard time when they can't grasp the skills because they're like, these are good skills and I want to be good and I don't have these skills. Right. And it's like, well, do you even, like, people are like, oh, I need to learn how to cut dovetails. And then I'll be like, well, do you want to make something with dovetails? Like, dovetails are pretty damn boring if you don't want to make something with dovetails. Like, there are certain things I use dovetails for, but a lot of the stuff I'm like, I don't want to take that amount of time to do that, right? And that's not within what I want to say, and I want to spend my time doing this. And I don't know, I feel like I'm getting off what my point was, but I think it's like thinking about it more. When you think about it as technical skills to just check off, then I think when you don't get them, that's when the shame comes in and you're like, I'm bad and I'm not good. Versus if you think about it as like, I want to look like that person that's doing, you know, like I have a crush on this person and I want to look like them when they're skateboarding. And so I need to learn these tricks or whatever it is that's like driving you to get there. It's like, if you can stay true to that drive and understand that there's not good or bad on the way, then I think you can make that, like what you were saying, like that incremental progress in guitar or whatever it is. It's much easier to like not have judgment and value around your progress. But I mean, I'm not saying it's easy and I don't do it correctly, but I think when I can think about it that way, it's less disappointing when I'm not where I want to be, I guess.
And like, I think also the idea of like rating your skill level or your value based off of like an arbitrary checklist. Everything about skateboarding, it's like a good skateboarder can do like, I don't know, random, like we'll say like a kick flip 360, then you like land in like a Smith grind on something, and like if you can't do that, you're not a good skateboarder. But then like you look at like, oh well, there's all these different styles of doing things, there's all these different styles of doing like anything creative, and then so you're like, well, Andy Anderson, like great skateboarder, also is not, you don't see them doing big aerial tricks, but is doing something else in the same vein, still skateboarding and doing it really well. But since they're not doing this arbitrary thing, are they a good skateboarder? Yes, because they're really great at the way that they've honed their craft. Like leaving all this room for ambiguity is, I think, like really important when it comes to like longevity of being a creative person.
Yeah. Well, Andy is a good example too, because like a big reason why people, if somebody doesn't like Andy, it's usually something about the fact that he wears a helmet, which is just like, you know, one of those pieces of arbitrary nonsense that like that does get in the way. And it's interesting to see how those things do get in the way for people. They get in the way for me. Like I try to wear a helmet whenever I skate, but I don't as consistently anymore because I don't know. Sometimes that one gets tricky for me because I feel like I feel different. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm skating in my driveway and I just feel like I need to just go skate or whatever. And that it feels like a lot of hassle to put on the smelly helmet. And sometimes it feels like pressure to set a good example or things like that. So I start to feel like shame on that side of like, oh, you're a father and you're not wearing a helmet skating or something like that. But if I do wear the helmet, then I'm feeling like, oh, I don't look very cool, and that stuff. Like, I think the interesting thing is like if you are feeling those sorts of things, that like the shame or whatever, it affects my skating. Like I can't just like turn it off. Like if I'm pushing Mongo and I feel bad about it, like it doesn't go away even if I tell myself like there's no rules in skateboarding. It's like still there and it will affect my skate. Sometimes that can be like a motivating thing. Anyway, I don't really know how that connects exactly, but I think Andy's a cool example of like somebody who people have like, he's just been so persistently creative and free to be himself that like he's well accepted now by even the like most, you know, I think I would say probably among like all the like people who are snobby about their skateboarders need to like not wear, you know, like be on like binging and like, I don't know, just making terrible decisions with their lives constantly in order to be cool enough to be a skateboarder. He's accepted by those people at this point too, just because like you can't deny that like he's creative and being himself, and yeah, just being rad. So yeah, I'm thinking about, like, we were going to talk about comics a bit too. I'm thinking about how this ties to like the comics that I've done. I drew when I was a kid, but when I started as an adult to draw comics more often was I was working in a preschool, and there would be like nap times or things where there wasn't a lot to do, and I would think about like things that would be funny to like just visual gags. And so I would draw these little comics on just notebook paper of like kids spinning around really fast, and like how you would draw that would be like several arms in the one frame, like, so it looks like they're, and I thought, what if you did that joke and then like they stopped spinning but they still had like all those arms? What would that look like? Or like a kid trying to pull their shoe off and they pull their whole foot off with it, like, because you draw it with like, it's just a oval, and you're to take the shoe off would be like, there'd be an actual foot in there, but like your drawing can just pull their foot off, and that would be funny. I was drawing those, but I draw them fast, and like I was posting them online, and I shared them with my friends, and I have one friend that was like, yeah, but anybody can draw that. It felt like that was kind of crushing to me, because I was like, aren't my gags funny? I just wanted somebody to acknowledge that this is silly. Or like a kid going across monkey bars, and every time they grab another bar, their arms just get like slightly longer until they're just standing on the ground.
Oh my God, these are so good. I just want to punch that person in the face that said that. So that was about him, not you, right? Like,
yeah.
So he is sad that he can't be creative or can't access that part of himself, and so he wants to shame you for doing it. And it's like, I am just getting very practiced and passing that right back to the person, of just, hey, here's your shit and I'm not holding it for you, like, of just like, I had this woman at a party that was like, I wish I could do my hobby all day. And I was like, I don't even remember what I said, but I was just like, I'm not holding this. Like, whatever's happening for you right now, hey, it's not a hobby for me. I'm a professional woodworker. So, and I don't need to prove that to you, right? Like, but it's like, here's your stuff. Like, and it's just like, I wish I had better, like, one line. I feel like Jamie's pretty good. Jamie is not here because he's sort of on his cabin retreat, but he is really good at having these one-liners. I don't know that he would always say he's good at saying them, but he always gives me good one-liners. But it's sort of like, anybody could draw that, but that's not true, because this came from you and your life experience. So no, not anybody could draw it. Like, it would be weird if somebody else drew it, because they would be inside your body. Like, that's what I want to say, is like, really? Like, are you an alien that can like come inside my body and like use me as a human suit and then make comics with my own ideas? Cool. Like, are you here? What planet are you here from? Like, fuck off. Just no.
Yeah. It's also such a like a tired kind of idea or like criticism of stylized illustration or like 2D image making, where it was like Picasso or something, where they're making like these like very stylized, simple, like quote unquote simple paintings, but it's a person that had like a lot of skill. And kind of like we were talking about earlier, when you break the rules, and it's in a good way, you already know all the rules, what they are and how to break them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would love to be at a place where I could just hand somebody back their shit. That sounds lovely. I think and some, but that's a hard place for me to be. I desperately want people to like me, and I don't love that about myself, but that is just like part of the way that I am. And it does like help me make a lot of friends a lot of times, but that is something that I really have to, I don't know, like there are times when I can do that. Like I don't have to worry about what other people think, but it takes a lot of effort for me to do that. And
oh yeah. Yeah.
so easy for me to internalize the shame. And I think I just, with like some of the things about like my upbringing, like in a religious community that was all about shame, it's really easy to like take that on as like, if somebody's saying something about how you're not good enough, like they're definitely right. That's kind of like something that I internalized. Yeah, just from basically the religious community that I grew up in. I think patriarchy loves to do that. Like capitalism loves to do that too. Like it's not just the religious community. That's something I've been noticing. Is like, I want to put people on this or that thing, but it really is, there's like a pretty messy bunch of terrible nonsense that wants to make you feel bad about yourself. It's not just one thing. Because it benefits, like people benefit from me feeling like I'm not good enough and I need to buy the next thing that will make me like my, skateboard crush or whatever it is.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I can identify, and I'm not saying I'm good at this. I think it's just a place where I want to be, where I don't
Yeah.
want to hold other people's feelings. And I think one of the thing that has given me a lot of practice in it is my brother has a traumatic brain injury and has a disability, and that happened 32 years ago in a car accident. And so when people find that out, they get uncomfortable and they get sad and they're like, oh my God, how horrible. And I used to try to calm them down when I was younger and and now I'm just like, this happened 32 years ago. Like, I am not currently sad about my brother's car accident. You're not asking me anything about what he's like, what our relationship is like. Like, you just feel sad that this could happen to somebody and you feel vulnerable in your own self, and I'm sure, Kacey, you can probably relate to this too, with like, you had a mom that passed away young, and it's just like, no, here's your shit. I'm not going to hold your sadness for you. And I just watch people. I don't say anything. I just watch them go through it, and they're like, you're not comforting me. You're not making me feel better about this. And it's just like, I'm just used to being like, no, like, you're not going to put your sadness on me. Like, my family is not currently sad about it. Like, we're just not. Is it hard? Yeah. But it's like, and it's just like, here's your shit. Like, you are feeling vulnerable. You're feeling whatever it is. You're not good at empathizing with people. You're whatever's happening for you is like something. And so I'm just going to let you have those feelings. And I'm not going to like tell you you're bad or anything like that. But I'm going to let you be in that. And I'm going to be over here in myself and my truth that it isn't a sad thing for me. And, and because if I let them put that on me, then I would always be sad about my situation. And I'm not, right? And so I think that practice has helped me add that to some other aspects of my life, of like, this isn't mine. This is you, so I don't know. But I'm not great at it, and it's very easy to feel shame, especially about being creative and art, because it's like, you're like, I pulled this from my soul. Will you look at it? And they're like, anybody could do that. And you're like,
Right.
Yeah, they're like, let me just take this and I'm gonna take a big dump on it real quick and then I'll hand it back
Yeah.
to you.
people.
Yeah. Even if it's true, like anybody could do it, but like you did it, and like not everybody's doing that. And if not everybody's doing something that they feel courageous enough to share with other people, I think maybe that's a way to, I don't know. I think about how I respond to people who share their work and how to like think about myself when I'm sharing my work. Is like, I don't know, that I guess I don't know. There are people who maybe dominate conversations because they're constantly sharing their own stuff. I suppose that's possible, but I don't think that's likely something that's going on with me. I don't think so. But like, yeah, it's rad when people make things, and it's cool that like it's pretty awesome to make somebody feel good about like being creative and in the world, because there's a lot of reasons to just not do that.
Yeah.
Have a good comeback when somebody says, oh, anybody could do that. And you should be like, oh, can I meet anybody? I didn't know they were doing the same work as me. Could I have anybody's website?
Yeah, what's their? I want to make sure I don't copy them.
Yeah, just like, no, just, yeah. Well, I know we're kind of reaching time, but is there somewhere we can share the comics that you're working on? Because I am an aspiring comic artist, and we've been talking a little bit about comics, and Kacey also has made some zines, and I know y'all have made zines together. And so is there a place where people can see your work? Like, I know we'll link to your Instagram and your skateboard stuff, but
Yeah, I have a website. It's a work in progress. I'm learning how to build a better like art website now, but right now it's just like pretty much everything I've ever done. So a lot of it is like comics that are, in the rough pencil stage and stuff. So I'm learning about like ways to do websites and portfolios and stuff, but this that's me giving all kinds of caveats, and we were just saying like just like, oh, but it's Forrest Johnson at forrestjohnson.com, but it's get ready, this is super clever. It's the number 4 IST Johnson at, or not at, that's an email account.
.com. You can also email Forrest fan emails if you want.
Yeah, sure. All the great would be appreciated, and I like all the newsletter and things that I sign up for to get slight discounts on random.
Right in the middle of that. Yeah. Spam, fan letter, spam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll link to all of your stuff. And yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. I think it was really helpful for me. I mean, I tell people, I'm like, I have a podcast where I work out my issues about it's therapy. Yeah, I think it was interesting to me that shame came up a lot, and I think our title might be "Wringing Out the Shame Sponge." I'm thinking.
I think that might be an easy title pick.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but I don't want to wrap up before you. Do you have anything to say, Kacey, before we wrap up?
No, sorry, I got distracted because my cat was like breaking down the door to get in here. So I think I kind of like missed the last 3 minutes, but this has been really fun. And I would love to invite Forrest back on sometime because I feel like one of the really cool things that he's created is his own skate stuff in his garage and driveway that I'd love to pick his maker brain
Yeah,
about.
I did well,
Yeah.
it's just a book page, but I like, it's not exactly what we were talking about, but this is my little,
Yes.
Nice.
it says follow your bliss,
So for the
I like
listeners,
that.
yeah.
and it's got
That's so good.
a sword in it that my son and I have been working on. He wanted a toy sword, so we had our Christmas tree was still laying in our yard, and so I chopped up chopped up the Christmas tree, and then we made this sword out of it, out of the trunk, and it was we didn't have any of the right tools, I realized, to do this, so we basically shaped the entire thing on my tabletop belt sander, which felt like true. And I have a tiny little Craftsman bandsaw that wanders like a motherfucker, and it's just very like, not well taken care of because I've got a million things going on. And but we made it using that, and it turned out pretty rad. And I think we both feel pretty cool about it. So I feel really great about these things that I think in another time or in the wrong mindset I would feel some kind of embarrassment about. Following our bliss over here, Arthur and I.
Yes.
I think that's a great call to action to wrap us up on is follow your bliss and don't take other people's emotional bullshit.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Hand them their giant dump back. Be like, oh, you left this
Yeah.
Or just
on my heart.
you have to
Awesome. Well, go ahead.
I didn't say anything. Who
All
knows?
right. Well, we wrapped up. Toodles, possums. Follow us on all the things. We also are starting to send out newsletters. So make sure you go on our website, which is playingpossumcollective.com, and you can subscribe to our newsletter. Jamie, we've been missing the last 2 episodes, has been in North Georgia working on some writing, and we're going to have a new blog post from him, I believe, this week. And so, yeah. Stay tuned, subscribe, and if you have friends that you think might like this, please share it because that's how people find out about us. And yeah, we'll see all possums in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Yes.
guys.
Thanks for stopping in and listening. And thanks, Forrest, for joining us.
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you, Forrest.
Great to hang out.
All right.
Love it.
Bye.
See you guys.